Hey, what's up everybody? Hammerheart Metal Reviews here once again doing another discography countdown. Today we are talking about arguably the originators of heavy metal, possibly the first heavy metal band ever, Black Sabbath. And what can you say about these guys? Just legends. Put out arguably the first heavy metal record in 1970. Had a very long career. Put out a shit ton of albums, 19 to be exact. Not all of them are great, but I mean, these guys are legends for a reason. Kind of started the genre, especially like doom metal. The original lineup, Tony Iommi, Bill Ward, Geezer Butler, and of course Ozzy Osbourne, put out a lot of quality albums, but then they started to maybe not put out as good stuff, and then Ozzy left to go solo or got kicked out and went solo. They brought in Ronnie James Dio, a legend in his own right. Put out some more good stuff, and then they had a lot of lineup changes, lots of different vocalists in on these albums. Some of them did good, some of them not so much. But anyways, without further ado, let's just get right into this. I'm going to count down their 19 albums from my least favorite down to my favorite. So let's go. Coming in last at number 19 is the album Forbidden from 1995. This is with Tony Martin, who I actually do like on vocals, but on this album, his performance is not very good at all. This whole album is just very uneven. I just don't enjoy it at all. I mean, the first song, Illusion of Power, actually features Ice-T rapping on it. That doesn't belong in Black Sabbath. I mean, come on. Maybe I'm being biased because I don't like hip-hop or rap at all. I'm a metalhead at heart. I don't like that kind of stuff. Kind of ruins the whole Black Sabbath feel of this album. There's still some okay Tony Iommi riffs, but all in all, this is just not an album I'll ever go back to listen to. I did for this list, but I struggled to make it through the whole album. I just do not like it. Easy choice for me, coming in last. Up next at number 18 is Never Say Die from 1978. This was Ozzy's last album before he left or before he got kicked out. I mean, he did come back to do one more album years and years later, but in the initial phase of the band, this was Ozzy's last album, and you could tell by this point that he really wasn't interested. There's even a few songs where he doesn't sing. They had to get some guest vocalists in there. And all in all, this is just a really inconsistent, uneven album. Feels very uninspired. And the title track, Never Say Die, is all right. Johnny Blade, like there's still some okay songs on here, but all in all, as a whole, this album is not the greatest. Very inconsistent. Easily coming in at the bottom end of my list at number 18. Up next at number 17 is the album Born Again from 1983. This is after Dio left the band. This is the first and only album with Ian Gillan from Deep Purple. And like, all in all, I really like Ian Gillan's vocals in Deep Purple, but here it sounds terrible. Like, it's really muddy sounding. The vocals just really sound flat and bad. It's like, I don't know if he was having a problem recording or what, but I just have never really been able to get into this album. Some okay songs like Disturbing the Priest, Zero the Hero. Some people love this album. I just have never been able to get into it. The sound is too weird. It's too muddy. I just don't like it. It's not an album I really ever go back to. That's why it's down here. Up next at number 16, another album I don't really go back to ever is Seventh Star. This is from 1986. This is the only album that featured Glenn Hughes, also from Deep Purple, on vocals. His vocals on here are actually really good. He is not the reason why this album is not great. This was actually designed to be a Tony Iommi solo album, which would have made a lot more sense because it doesn't really sound like Black Sabbath. He was kind of going for like an arena rock feel here, and that's how it comes across. Like, the vocals performance is actually really good. It just doesn't sound like Black Sabbath to me at all. In for the Kill is an okay song. Turn to Stone, like, it's okay for what it is, but once again, this is just not an album I really ever go back to. And that's why it's coming in number 16. Coming up next at number 15 from 1976 is Technical Ecstasy. This is another Ozzy album, his second last one. Another very uneven effort. There are some really standout tracks that are actually really good, but all in all, album as a whole, not their strongest effort. Backstreet Kids is alright. I absolutely love Dirty Women, the song on there. Absolutely fucking easily my favorite song on this album. Very good riff, very good vocal performance. She's Gone is a nice, slower ballad song. All in all, it's decent, but I couldn't put it higher than this because as a whole, this album isn't awesome. Up next at number 14 is their last album, titled 13, from 2013. This was the reunion album. Ozzy came back, and they kind of tried to do a throwback thing. A lot of the songs sound like they were just trying to recreate the feel that they had in those mid-70s albums. Some of the riffs even sound very derivative of those early albums, and that's kind of the reason I couldn't put this higher. It's not bad by any means, but it's not really anything original. It's not groundbreaking. It's enjoyable to some degree, but it's not an album I go back to listen to a ton, but it's still okay. End of the Beginning, God is Dead. Like, there's some okay tracks on here. All in all, a decent album. I just couldn't put it higher than this. Up next at number 13 is Cross Purposes. This is from 1994. This is another Tony Martin album. Once again, I do love Tony Martin's vocals, but here it just doesn't sound like he's hitting the high notes like he did on some preceding albums. It's still okay. There's some good songs on here. Cross of Thorns, Dying for Love, The Hand That Rocks the Cradle is pretty cool. Like, all in all, a pretty decent album. The vocals could be a little bit better, but all in all, it's a decent, like, modern metal album. Not something I listen to a ton, but it's okay, and that's why it's coming in here. Up next at number 12, another Tony Martin album, his first one with the band The Eternal Idol from 1987. Vocal performance on here is definitely a lot better than on Cross Purposes, but he was kind of trying to find his sound here. The couple albums that he did after this, he really nails his vocals a lot better than this, but this does have some good songwriting on it. It's a little inconsistent, the songs. There's some really standout ones, some that aren't so good, but some of my favorite tracks on here, The Shining, Nightmare is really good, the title track, Eternal Idol. All in all, a pretty decent album, especially coming in after all the turmoil. You're following Ozzy, you're following Dio, you're following Gillan and Hughes. No one's ever heard of Tony Martin. He did a decent job coming in. It's an okay album, coming in at number 12. Up next at number 11, this might be controversial that I have this low, but I'm going with the debut, the self-titled Black Sabbath from 1970. I mean, this is a very groundbreaking album. There's some really groundbreaking songs on here, arguably the first heavy metal riff ever in the title track, Black Sabbath. NIB is really fucking cool. Depending on which version of the album you have, you might have like Wicked World on there. The Wizard is really good. But the back half of the album is definitely not as strong as the front half. They still really had like a blues rock feel to it, like heavy blues rock. And by no means is this a bad album. I actually really like this debut. Like from here on out, these albums are all really good. I would still listen to them. They're like really decent classic heavy metal albums. I'm just putting this one down here at 11 because I like the other 10 a little bit more. I think they're a little bit better than this one as a whole. But this is a very groundbreaking, important album and is definitely worth the listen. I was going to say if you've never heard it before, but who hasn't heard Black Sabbath, at least a couple songs from it? If you're into metal at all, I'm sure you've at least touched on Black Sabbath at some point. Now let's get into the top 10. At number 10 from 1990 is the album Tear. This is a Tony Martin album as well, and his vocals on here are absolutely amazing. I really like his performance here. I really like the songs. The opening track, Anno Mundi, absolute gorgeous song. The Sabbath Stones, a nice doomier song. And then they've got kind of like a couple that blend together, Odin's Court and Valhalla. Just really good album all in all. I know it's weird to put this over Black Sabbath, but I do like this album. The songwriting is great, and I thought Tony Martin's vocals on here are actually really fucking good. That's why it made my top 10. Up next at number 9, I've got Volume 4 from 1972. A really killer Ozzy album. Tomorrow's Dream, the ballad Changes is really good. One of my favorite Sabbath songs of all time is Snowblind. That's on this album. Supernaut, really cool riff in there too. Like, I just named off all these awesome songs. It's just not higher because as a whole, there's a couple songs that don't hit the mark on this album for me. But all in all, this is still a really enjoyable album. It's pretty good. I just can't put it higher because there's a couple tracks that hold it back from being excellent. It's still very good. It's just not excellent. Okay, coming up next at number 8, Dehumanizer from 1992. This was the third and final Dio album, not including, of course, when they came back to do the Heaven and Hell album, but under the Black Sabbath moniker, this was the last Dio album. It's the weakest of his three, but saying that isn't shitting on this album. It's still really good. This is probably the heaviest Black Sabbath album. Songs like Computer God, TV Crimes, Too Late is a nice slower one. I is really cool. Just all in all, a really killer Black Sabbath album. And of course, Ronnie James Dio's vocals, absolutely amazing. As always, he never disappoints. One of my favorite vocalists ever. And that's why this album's up here at number 8. Moving right along, number 7 is Sabotage from 1975. This is kind of an experimental album, trying some different sounds out, but I really like it. I think they really hit the mark with this album. Hole in the Sky is absolutely great song. Symptom of the Universe is kind of like the proto-thrash song. Before there was any thrash around, this song kind of started that riffing style. So give Tony Iommi a ton of credit for doing shit like that. Megalomania is a really cool song. The Writ is really great. Ozzy's vocals on here actually sound really fucking good. All in all, a really solid album, and that's why it's coming in number 7. Up next at number 6 from 1981 is Mob Rules. This was the second Dio album. It's not quite as good as the first Dio album, which I'll get to later, but this one is fucking solid nonetheless. The Sign of the Southern Cross, easily one of my favorite Sabbath songs. Country Girl's really cool. Falling Off the Edge of the World. All in all, this is a really killer album. Maybe there's a couple songs that sound a little bit like filler, so I can't rank it higher than this because it's not necessarily, doesn't quite hit the peaks that the top 5 I'm going to talk about next do. But nonetheless, number 6 out of 19 albums is pretty fucking good. But now let's get into that top 5. Might be wondering, hey, he hasn't even talked about all the Tony Martin albums yet. Is he crazy? Is he putting one this high? Yeah, I sure am. Coming in at number 5, Headless Cross from 1989. This was the second Tony Martin album, and to me, easily his best performance. The songwriting on here is great. The title track, Headless Cross, come on, absolutely amazing. Maybe this doesn't have the old school Black Sabbath feel. This is just like some solid 80s metal, but it's good 80s metal. Like, fuck, Devil and Daughter, When Death Calls, really good solo in there. I think it was a guest solo from Brian May from Queen. Does a really nice solo in there. Nightwing is a really cool song. Just all in all, the vocals on here are actually amazing. Give Tony Martin props as he deserves it. And all in all, a really good album. That's why it's coming in at number 5. Up next at number 4, I've got the classic, their second album, Paranoid from 1970. I mean, front to back, this album is just a classic. It's hit after hit. Maybe some of the songs are overplayed, but they're overplayed for a reason. That's not to take away the impact that this album had and how good these songs actually are. War Pigs, absolutely amazing, long, epic doom song. Paranoid, catchy as fuck. Maybe it's easy, maybe it's simple, but it's fucking great. Planet Caravan, nice, fucking softer ballad, kind of trippy song. Of course, Iron Man, not my favorite Sabbath song, but it's very fucking catchy. It's very memorable. My favorite song on the album is Fairies Wear Boots. Absolutely love it. All in all, I can't really say anything about Paranoid that hasn't been said before, but for me, it's coming in at number 4. Up next at number 3 from 1973 is their 5th album, Sabbath Bloody Sabbath. They kind of start to experiment with some different sounds here, and I really like the outcome here. Ozzy's vocals are absolutely amazing on here. The title track, Sabbath Bloody Sabbath, is possibly my favorite Black Sabbath song. That would be a tough one. I might have to do a ranking at some point, but it's really fucking killer. A National Acrobat is great. Sabracadabra is really fucking good riff in there. Spiral Architect, another great song. Just all in all, a really killer album, and that's why I have it at number 3. And that just leaves 2. Let's find out what it is. Coming up next at number 2 for 1980 is Heaven and Hell. This is the first album with Dio on vocals, and it just knocks it right out of the park. I almost put this at number 1, but I didn't. It's fucking good, though. This is just an amazing album. This is right after Dio left Rainbow. Just picked up right where he left off vocals-wise. Like, absolutely amazing vocalist. This is before his solo stuff. Title track, Heaven and Hell, absolutely iconic Black Sabbath song. Easily one of my favorites by them. Children of the Sea, absolutely amazing. Die Young is a nice fast one. Sabbath is not known for doing too many fast songs, but this is one of their best. Lady Evil, absolutely amazing. Just all in all, what can you say about this? Black Sabbath, Heaven and Hell, absolutely classic metal album. That's why it's coming in at number 2. And that just leaves one album to rule them all. My favorite Black Sabbath album from 1971, their third album, Master of Reality. This is a doom metal masterpiece. Just great song after great song. There's no weak moments on here. Sweet Leaf opens it up. Absolutely great. Some other awesome songs. Children of the Grave. Lord of This World. Absolutely love that song. Solitude's a nice fucking slower kind of ballady song. My favorite song on the album is the closer, Into the Void. Absolutely amazing riffs. Absolutely amazing vocals. I just love the vibe on this album. It's so dark and fucking heavy. And for its time, like, there was nothing else like this heavy out there. So, and it holds up. This album still holds up. All in all, yeah, I love Black Sabbath. Most of their eras, maybe the few albums that I mentioned at the bottom of this list are not something I really listen to often. But, I mean, these guys are the originators for a reason. Gotta give respect where respect's due. I am more of a black metal head these days, but I still like my Sabbath, and I still listen to it. And anyways, let me know down below what your favorite Black Sabbath albums are. What'd you think of this list? Give me a like, give me a subscribe. Until next time, Hammerheart Metal Reviews out.